From New York, Ms. Cortez.
I thank the Congresswoman. I'd like to start with some questions prior to my recognized questions. Mayor Adams, on January 31st of 2025, your attorneys met with federal prosecutors regarding the charges of bribery, campaign finance fraud, and conspiracy against you. Were you aware of this meeting prior to its occurrence?
Congresswoman, as I...
Microphone, please.
I'm sorry. As I stated to your colleagues, and I'm going to continue to state because we're asking the same question over and over again.
This is a new question.
This case is in front of Judge Ho, and out of deference to
I
our
understand,
criminal justice
Mayor Adams.
process, I'm going to
Mayor Adams,
refer this
as your
to the
counsel,
court.
I'm sure will inform you. The only permissible way to refuse to answer a question during a congressional proceeding such as this is by pleading the Fifth Amendment. Deference to the judge is not a permissible excuse for not answering questions during a congressional hearing. Is it your intention to plead the Fifth today?
Councilwoman, you said the only way that you can't answer a question is to plead the Fifth. I am answering your question. I'm answering your question directly. That
You are not, Mayor Adams.
Okay, I believe I am.
I will ask it again. Were you aware of the meeting between your attorneys and federal prosecutors on January 31st? Answering this question is a yes or a no.
And I'm going to answer it again. Out of deference to Judge Ho with this case.
That is not an answer, Mayor Adams.
He is going to deal with the outcome of the case.
Mayor Adams, is it your intention to not comply with these questions?
As I stated, I'm answering your questions, and what you're doing, let's be clear on, you're asking me about communications between my attorney and I. And I don't think that is appropriate to be asking a question between my attorney and I, because we are in a country of law and order.
I understand.
And your
So, Mayor
relationship
Adams,
and
who
communications
is
with
your
your attorney
attorney?
should be respected.
Who is your attorney?
Alex Spiro.
Alex Spiro, thank you. Now, Mayor Adams, have your attorneys ever met with city officials? That is not covered. I'm not asking about your conversations with your attorneys. Have your attorneys met with city officials, New York City officials?
Any communication or activity between my attorney
So yes or
and I
no?
is
Have
up to
your
our attorney and
your
I.
personal
You can reach out
attorneys
to,
met with New York City officials?
Alex Spiro, my attorney, to deal with those communications.
Mayor Adams, in this meeting, did anyone representing you, including perhaps Mr. Spiro, agree or allude to any arrangement with the Trump administration that would involve changing city policies in exchange to reconsideration of the charges brought against you?
You say in this meeting? Can you be clear?
In the January 31st meeting.
Again, there was never any agreement, never any quid pro quo.
That's not what I'm asking.
Nothing wrong. Never any agreement, never any quid pro quo.
Was there an allusion to a shift
that
in
I've
New York
done
City
wrong.
policy?
Gentlelady's time's expired. And I just want to remind her, Mayor Adams is here voluntarily, and we appreciate that. The topic of the hearing is about our illegal alien problem and the drain on the cities and what the solution is. So, this is Ms. Ocasio-Cortez.
Thank you, Chairman. Now, Mayor Adams, are you aware that the former acting U.S. Attorney Danielle Sassoon was present at the January 31st meeting between your lawyers and federal prosecutors?
As I stated, and you, Congresswoman, you appear to want to ask the question over and over again, and so I could only give you the appropriate question over and over again. That this case is
I understand. Mayor Adams, are you not answering this question because you believe you will incriminate yourself?
To the movement of this case.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to submit to the congressional record Danielle Sassoon's resignation letter from the U.S. Attorney.
Without objection to order.
Thank you so much. In her letter, the former acting U.S. Attorney, a registered Republican, a former clerk for Antonin Scalia, was appointed by President Trump to serve as acting U.S. Attorney, was present at the January 31st meeting between Mayor Adams' attorneys and federal prosecutors. After that meeting, with attorneys, the acting U.S. attorney resigned rather than dismiss the charges against Mayor Adams. In her letter, which I have just submitted to the congressional record, Ms. Sassoon stated that during that January 31st meeting, Mayor Adams's attorneys, quote, repeatedly urged what amounted to a quid pro quo, describing it as a, quote, improper offer of immigration enforcement assistance in exchange for a dismissal of his case, end quote. The acting U.S. attorney has submitted a former acting U.S. attorney has submitted a letter. And Mayor Adams, do you know how many federal prosecutors total resigned rather than file the motion to drop the charges?
It was reported that 7.
7, correct. Mr. Chair, I would like to submit another letter from Hagan Scotton, his resignation letter.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Scotton was an assistant U.S. attorney who also attended the January 31st meeting between your attorneys and federal prosecutors. He also resigned rather than drop the charges. In his resignation letter, he stated, and I quote, "Our laws and traditions do not allow using the prosecutorial power to influence other citizens, much less elected officials." 7 federal prosecutors, the acting U.S. attorney, the assistant U.S. attorney, all gave up their entire careers, Republicans included, then drop these charges because of what they saw transpire in that January 31st meeting. This is important not just for the city of New York, but for the people of the United States of America. Because what is being alleged is genuinely not just about what may or may not have occurred from the mayor's office and with the mayor, but what is happening at the Department of Justice. And that's what I want everyone to understand. These are not Democratic U.S. attorneys. These are Republican U.S. attorneys that have trained under Republican-appointed Supreme Court justices who have stated that there is and suggested as well, that the prosecutorial power at the Department of Justice may be influencing what is occurring. And instead of carrying that out and carrying out the erosion at the Department of Justice, they would have preferred to give up their entire career. 7 lifelong public servants involved in law enforcement, mind you. And to that, when it comes to the fact that this may or may not have anything to do with this hearing, respectfully, Mr. Chairman, this is about specifically immigration enforcement in terms of that. And this right here is the 4-alarm fire that everyone must be paying attention to. Because if it's not just in the mayor's office of New York City, what other city, what other individual, what other municipality leader can be next? For a party that talks about states' rights and municipal rights, we must defend, yes, the rule of law, including in the Department of Justice. And with that, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair recognizes Mr. LaHood from Illinois.
Recognized. The gentlelady from New York is recognized for her 3 minutes and an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 13.7 million people, 13.7 million Americans will be cut off from their health care and made completely uninsurable by the bill that Republicans are presenting today. You know, there's a lot that I've been hearing, and I've been listening to my Republican counterparts here today and what they've been saying about this bill. And the math is not adding up. They're trying to convince people that they are cutting millions of undocumented people from payroll, from Medicare, acting as though this is what's going to save it. Even if you believe everything that Republicans have said today, they are identifying 1 million, their claim, which I dispute, but if you believe them, their claim is that 1 million undocumented people are on Medicaid. So why are they trying to cut 13.7 million Americans off their health care? By the Republicans' own Energy and Commerce tweet this morning, their claim is 7.6 million people are somehow ineligible for health care. So why are they cutting 13.7 million Americans off their health care? They've asked us to read this bill, and we have. This bill bans the people that they kick off of Medicaid from even buying their own insurance from the Affordable Care Act exchange. So once you are kicked off Medicaid, you then can't even buy your own health insurance. It increases costs for people who they deem eligible and who are low income and forces them to pay even more. And if you have a private insurer, don't worry, you're getting screwed over too, because your healthcare premiums are going to skyrocket from the disaster that is happening from this bill. We've done assessments, because if you live in a rural community, you're gonna be hurt too. In New York 23, 25% of people are on Medicaid in this area of upstate New York. Westfield Memorial Hospital will be at risk of closure. UPMC Chautauqua is at risk of closure. Schuyler Hospital at risk of closure. California 23, where 46% of people are on Medicaid. Redlands Community Hospital at risk of closure if this passes. Victor Valley Global Medical Center, Loma Linda University Medical Center, all at risk of closure. Colorado 8, 24% of people in this community are on Medicaid, and Platte Valley Medical Center will be at risk of closure if these cuts pass. Who do you believe? The people who are trying to cut this, not, by the way, to cut from quote-unquote undeserving people to give to deserving people, but they are cutting these Medicaid care and these Medicaid dollars to pay for tax cuts for Elon Musk and billionaires. So this money isn't even going towards funding better care for people who are eligible. This money is going, and we are cutting money and healthcare from people and families who are suffering to pay for tax cuts for the rich. It is a crime happening in front of the American public right now. And I yield back.
For an open statement.
Mr. Chairman, I seek to be recognized.
The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized for his opening statement.
Ms. Ocasio-Cortez.
Thank you. I just want us to be clear about the provision ahead of us, in front of us right now. There are plenty of things that seek permitting, that need a permit, whether it's solar energy, wind energy, gas, oil. If you want to construct something big, you need to go through a process of review to seek a permit. This bill says to oil and gas, to fossil fuel companies and fossil fuel companies only, you can pay money when healthcare experts, environmental experts are saying, if you place a pipeline here through this community, people will get cancer, people could get reproductive cancers, people could be poisoned, people could be exposed to mercury, lead, there could be grave health and environmental factors, and an oil and gas company can pay $10 million to waive all of that away to be deemed, quote, in the public interest. Even if that pipeline is not shown to increase, to lower energy costs, even if that pipeline is shown to increase health or environmental risk factors. And what this amendment does, the only thing this amendment is asking us to do is to say, can the Inspector General, the watchdog of the Department of Energy, certify that corruption risks are not increasing to jeopardize the integrity of the permitting process. This amendment isn't even changing that underlying very disturbing provision. This is saying, can we certify that there's not a risk of corruption here? And I'm finding that the opposition to this is not really being stated. Additionally, I think also to the ranking member's point, in just the fact of paying $10 million makes it automatically in the public interest alone. And what happens when that $10 million in the public interest then starts to run up against real environmental, health, and other risk factors? Which public interest prevails? The check? And I want to, I'm interested in the ranking member's thoughts in reading these provisions on the bill, so I'm happy to yield to you if you have any thoughts on that, Mr. Pallone.
Well, it literally says, I mean, I've never heard anything like it, it's so outrageous, that the non-refundable charge shall be deemed in the public interest. So I don't know how you can read that other than to say that actually paying the fee satisfies the public interest criteria. So I've never seen that in any piece of legislation in my life where, in other words, what they're saying is it's in the public interest for you to pay. It's in the public interest for you to give us $1 million.
So-
And that's the public interest.
So will the ranking member yield back? So we're hearing here right now that this bill has carved out a specific industry, not anyone seeking permitting reform, a specific industry, just oil and gas, to just pay to bypass all of the guardrails, all of the safety, all of any of the rules and guidelines to cite anything responsibly. And you can just pay money to bypass any concerns around health risks, and for some reason, there's no corruption risk there. I mean, I spent 6 years on the oversight committee taking on corporate corruption, taking on governmental corruption, including on a bipartisan basis. I too have never seen anything like this, ever. I sat on the Natural Resources Committee, saw and heard testimony from tons of people, whether it's from mining, whether it's from any other kinds of exposures, kids with developmental disabilities that can never be recovered. And all we are asking for is a certification that risks of corruption will not increase from the Inspector General under the Trump administration's own Department of Energy. That's the only thing that's up here today. Thank you, and I yield back.
I yield back.
Mr. Chair.
Gentleman from California yields back. Is there? And the chair now recognizes the gentlelady from New York's 14th District for 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Before I dive into my questions, I just wanted to clarify some of the exchanges that happened recently. First and foremost, there was kind of an insinuation that after confirming that solar and renewable energies receive public subsidy, there was a little bit in the exchange that folks may have insinuated or taken from it that fossil fuels do not receive public subsidy. That's not what you're saying, right? Correct, Mr. Secretary?
Nowhere near of the same magnitude, and there's controversy about how to count them. I would say no
Yeah.
meaningful subsidies today for oil and gas in the United States.
Okay, I think you're right in that there's a disagreement in that. Because I think what most people consider a subsidy is public use, public resources going to an industry or corporation. And in 2022 alone, we're looking at $10 to $52 billion in direct subsidies. Anywhere between, again, depending on how you count it, $1.5 to $7 trillion globally in the fossil fuel industry receiving subsidy, in addition to tax breaks, in addition to also public lands. I was the chair of the Energy and Mineral, ranking member of the Chair and Energy Mineral Resources Subcommittee on Natural Resource, and public lands alone that we had leased for pennies on the dollar for oil companies to drill on. I think those would be considered subsidies, but there may be a difference of opinion there. Additionally, the other thing that I wanted to clear up as well is this exchange previously on the immigrant workforce for many of the oil fields and the industry. You stated that there's a difference between quote-unquote illegal immigration and legal immigration, but what is your stance on the ending of legal status for immigrants in the United States who are here documented?
The devil's in the details, so I don't know enough about the issue you're raising to give a comment. I'm very passionate about immigration and all that, but I'm not sure exactly the question you're asking.
So there are hundreds of thousands of legally documented immigrants here, many that work in the energy sector that are here under different kinds of authorizations, one being temporary protected status that Mr. VC had raised. And the administration is ending this status that provides a path to work permits, legal work permits, for huge sectors of the workforce in the United States. Are you supportive of ending these work authorizations?
Again, I'm not actively working on immigration policy and all that. I don't think I have a thoughtful
Understood.
response to that.
Understood. I'll get back to my question line. In a February interview with Bloomberg, when asked what oil prices you are targeting as secretary, you stated, lower is better. And I take it you stand by that statement, correct?
Yes, in general, lower is better because there's far more consumers than producers.
Mm-hmm. And even if that means oil company stock prices falling?
I don't think American consumers should worry about the stock prices of oil and gas companies.
Great.
You do need a healthy sector to actually produce, but that's what a market mechanism does. The cure for high prices is high prices, and the cure for low prices is low prices.
And I think we're in agreement there. Given your statement on aiming for lower oil prices, what are your stances on the president's tariffs that are increasing costs of production?
There's lots of impacts, and there's lots of things that impact the cost of production. Most of what the president is doing is going to meaningfully lower the cost of production. But his agenda to try to reshore heavy industry manufacturing in the United States, I think it's good for the country in the long run.
Thank you. I'd like to reclaim my time. There are several, there's an industry-wide consensus here. There has also been a survey in March of oil and gas companies by the Dallas Fed, which were littered about complaints around uncertainty. Companies in this survey commented on the rising costs for materials like steel, which was subject to a 25% tariff at the time and is now subject to a 50% tariff as of June 4th. Steel is obviously a very important input in oil and gas production and energy production writ large. Mr. Chair, I would like to seek unanimous consent to enter these complaints into the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. Secretary Wright, how does the president's tariffs plan and policy, particularly around steel, align with lowering costs for reducing uncertainty?
Well, if I could interject, the lady's time has expired. If you could answer that in writing, it'd be appreciated.
Thank you.
I'll do that, or we can talk another time.
Great.
Thank you. The lady's time has expired, and the chair.
Lady in
Thank-
the back,
Mr.
chair
Chairman, I would
recognizes
ask
Mr.
unanimous
Ocasio-Cortez from New York.
All right, well, that was some kind of bingo going on over there. I don't know what's going on. Anyways.
Oh, I know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you to the witnesses for coming here today. I apologize for the treatment that the four of you have been subjected to. And Governor Walz, I just have to say, I know you're getting a lot of grief from the majority here, but we are talking about individuals who have cheered on an individual who issued a Nazi salute from behind the presidential seal of the United States of America, who have cheered on the pardoning of individuals who attacked the United States Capitol and flew a Nazi flag and the flag of the Confederacy, traitors to the United States, sworn enemies of the United States of America, through the capital of this nation. And now they want to act offended because someone has the courage to say, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, maybe it's a duck. So I want to thank you for not wavering to their bullying, which is unconscionable and sad to see. So I just wanted to let you know that, Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
To the three of you, Governor Walz, Governor Pritzker, and Governor Hochul, you three have each sworn an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, correct? I'll start with you.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have.
And I imagine that also includes the Fourth and Fifth Amendment protections for due process and the rule of law.
It does. Sure does.
Yes.
And that means protecting your people in your states, U.S. citizens and every individual, because that is what makes America great, that we are a land of the free and of rule of law, to protect them from infringements of their civil liberties, correct? Now, what we are seeing is a pattern where ICE is breaking the law. We have the detention of a U.S. citizen who has been detained by immigration officials. We have ICE here that has also blamed and arrested U.S. citizens for being simply suspected of being an immigrant, largely because of their appearance. In January, a Chicago-based U.S.-born citizen, Julio Noriega, was arrested by ICE and held in custody for over 10 hours. In April, a Florida Highway Patrol officer pulled over Juan Carlos Lopez Gomez, a United States-born citizen, and arrested him on suspicion of being in the country illegally. He had his real ID, his Social Security card, his mother presented his birth certificate, and they still didn't let him go. In May, U.S. citizen Leonardo Garcia Venegas was filming an ICE raid. He was arrested by ICE. In May, a veteran and U.S. citizen who is Puerto Rican, was detained during an ICE raid at his workplace in New York City. That's called a paper bag test. And your job, Governor Hochul, is to protect people from that kind of infringement, correct?
Yes.
Because all of us must adhere to the law, and no one is above it. So if a U.S. citizen tries to break the law, or if an ICE officer tries to break the law, your job is to uphold the law, correct?
We absolutely uphold the laws of the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of New York.
And sanctuary states are about U.S. citizens as well, having sanctuary against the attacks on our constitutional rights from illegal search and seizure. There is nothing preventing ICE from issuing a warrant and you having complete compliance with their request. Correct, Governor Hochul?
We comply in cases where there's been criminal activity alleged. Yes, we always do. But we're not involved in civil immigration enforcement because our state police that I control have to deal with other crimes that they're solving.
And apologies, I just have 10 seconds left. But when they say illegal versus legal immigration, they are trying to end legal status in the United States as well. Correct, Governor Pritzker, with the end of TPS and making people undocumented by removing legal status, ending legal status, and then having the audacity to call them illegal when they were here documented, correct?
Taking students' visas away from people, taking their legal right to be in the United States away from them when they've been granted maybe years earlier to stay.
So I don't want to hear about how this is about illegal versus legal immigration. They are attacking legal status and removing legal status. The Republican majority is anti-legal immigration in the United States, and I want to make that very clear. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary Kennedy, for being here today. It's actually not our first time meeting. We met a very, very long time ago when I was 9 years old in Westchester Putnam County at a Riverkeeper event. And I remember back then you talking about the importance of science and environmental action at that time. Listening to a lot of your discussion and a lot of the messages that you provide to people, you talk a lot about corporate influence and corruption in government. And this is an area that's very important to me, and it's an area that I do a lot of work in. I am, as a public servant, completely financially divested of any conflicts of interest with any healthcare companies, any stocks, any lawsuits that I would financially benefit from. Are you?
Yes,
You're completely divested.
yes.
You have no financial interest in any lawsuit, crypto, none of that.
No. Oh, crypto? I own Bitcoin.
Okay. And do you have any other securities or assets?
I don't, I mean, I had to go through this with the Office of Government Ethics, and I had a few interests that were very minor that I divested.
Okay, just checking. I'd always like
No,
to.
it's a good question.
I always like
I'm
to know
glad you asked it.
what the field is before I enter conversations. So thank you for that. In the healthcare space, something that we've both spoken to is that some of the worst actors are in the for-profit medical space. Are in for-profit health insurance, big pharma, et cetera. And one of the worst companies actually is United Healthcare in this respect. United Healthcare is the largest health insurance company in the country. They are the largest employer of doctors and own thousands of pharmacies, clinics, surgery centers, and home health agencies, as well as hospice providers. Secretary Kennedy, are you aware that President Trump's Department of Justice is reportedly investigating United Healthcare for criminal insurance fraud in some of their for-profit health insurance plans, like Medicare Advantage?
I'm not aware of that investigation.
You are not aware that the Trump Department of Justice is investigating the largest insurance company in America that
No, I'm not aware of.
for fraud in Medicare Advantage
No, I'm not aware of that.
that
but
you have jurisdiction over?
It doesn't surprise me.
Okay. In your submitted testimony, you said HHS takes seriously our role as responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. Are you aware that for-profit insurance corporations like United Healthcare have been found to be defrauding public dollars of more than $80 billion a year?
I'm not aware of that number, but
You're
I'm
not
aware
aware
that
of
there's
that?
fraud across the for-profit sector.
Respectfully, Secretary Kennedy, if we're making decisions around waste, fraud, and abuse, this is the largest source of waste, fraud, and abuse of public dollars in the public insurance
You
space.
say $80 million?
$80 billion a year.
80, did you say 80 million or 80 billion?
80 with a B, billion.
With a B, yeah.
If that's the case, why did you nearly double the rate that taxpayer dollars give for-profit insurance companies like United next year, if you don't know those things?
Double the rate? How did I do that?
So your agency nearly doubled the taxpayer dollars that for-profit insurance corporations like United will be paid next year, meaning these companies, the largest of whom is under investigation, criminal investigation by the Trump administration, will be receiving an additional $25 billion from your agency.
How is that happening?
I would be happy to submit to the congressional record evidence of this. I will enter the CMS press release from April 7th of 2025 into the record, which states that Medicare Advantage corporations will now receive a 5.06% increase in payments next year under your jurisdiction, Mr. Secretary.
Well,
This is up from 2.2%.
I mean, what rate
Without
is
objection.
Proposed from the Biden administration. You are doubling the rate that the Biden.
The gentlelady's
these
time has
criminally
expired.
investigated companies.
The gentlelady's time has
receiving.
expired. The chair now recognizes the gentleman.
Ms. Ocasio-Cortez.
Thank you so much. Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to our witnesses for being here today. Less than 2 weeks ago, we saw Republicans vote to completely gut Medicaid, which covers nearly half of all births in the United States. And they did this despite the fact that the United States, the richest country in the world, also has the highest rate of maternal deaths among all wealthy countries. Black women in particular in America are dying at more than 3 times the rate of white women in childbirth. And we also have the highest rate of infant deaths overall compared to other high-income countries. We're also the only country that doesn't guarantee health care as a basic human right. Dr. Chen, as a medical provider, can you speak to why the United States has such high rates of infant and maternal mortality?
This is not actually my area of expertise, so I don't want to speak out of turn. Our Maternal Child Health Bureau does cover this issue very, very closely, and we're happy to follow up with you afterwards.
I understand. And given this, I also think it's important that we talk about the Healthy Start program. The Healthy Start is a federally funded bipartisan program whose sole purpose is to reduce infant deaths and improve the health of pregnant women and new mothers. There are more than 115 Healthy Start programs across the country in both Republican and Democratic districts. In fact, Healthy Start was actually created by Republican President George H.W. Bush in 1991. Healthy Start programs, like the ones in my community in the Bronx, provide education for new parents so that they can safely care for their baby and one-on-one support through home visits. They ensure that families are connected to the services they need, like housing, food, transportation, and prenatal and postpartum care. Dr. Chen, your agency oversees the Healthy Start program, correct?
Yes, in the Maternal Child Health Bureau.
And as I mentioned earlier, it was created under Republican President George H.W. Bush, but since then, Healthy Start has been reauthorized several times on a bipartisan basis. The last time it was reauthorized was during President Trump's first administration. And that is because Healthy Start works. Women in Healthy Start receive earlier and more frequent prenatal care, fathers are more engaged, and babies are born healthier under this program. I'm proud to be leading the reauthorization of this with Representative Maliotakis and continuing the bipartisan tradition of this program. And I'd like to urge my colleagues to support this common sense bipartisan effort to reauthorize Healthy Start. I also want to briefly turn to another bill we are discussing today about sunscreen, which was led by my colleagues, Representatives Joyce and Dingell, which was spoken to earlier today. With respect to sunscreen, skin cancer is the most common cancer in the United States. And for people who work long hours outside, like farm workers and construction workers, adequate sun protection is essential. Yet the Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, has not approved any new sunscreen filters since 1999. Yet our counterparts in Europe and Korea and many other markets around the world have been able to bring much more technologically advanced filters to the market. And the reason this is important is that it's not just a cosmetic issue. The easier sunscreens are to apply, and the more elegant these formulations are, then the easier and more commonly adopted they will be for people to use. If they are uncomfortable, if they smell bad, if they have all of these other issues, folks who work on farms, folks that work in construction, people who work in the sun are less likely to use them, and it elevates cancer risks for working people. And so I am deeply supportive of efforts within the FDA to help streamline a safe process for approving these new filters, ensuring, yes, we want to make sure that there aren't endocrine disruptions or any other kinds of issues, ensuring the safety of these, but surely we can come to a process where we don't have to wait 25 years between filters when we're being outperformed by the rest of the world. So I want to express my support for those efforts and ensure that we can get this moving because it's just simply unacceptable. And Dr. Corrigan-Curray, why is the United States so far behind other countries when it comes to available sunscreens?
So in some countries, these are regulated as not as drugs, but they're regulated as cosmetics. And we regulate them as drugs, and we've done some testing. We know they're systemically absorbed, and we need to, look at that data. If we had that data in hand, we would be ready to review as many as sunscreens as was submitted.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And I yield back to the chair. Thank you.
Gentlelady yields. Chair now recognizes the gentlelady from New York's 14th District for 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman. Mr. Karam, I want to touch on something that you mentioned in your written testimony, which is that pipeline safety law currently prevents the Pipeline Hazardous Material Safety Administration, or PHMSA, which we are discussing today, from imposing safety regulations on existing pipelines. And that was, frankly, shocking to me. It means that it will be a monumental task to make the existing 3.3 million miles of pipelines in our communities safer. Can you talk about how this requirement prevents us from making the most dangerous pipelines in America safer? And should we look at altering that requirement in any reauthorization of PHMSA?
Yeah, thank you for that question. The Pipeline Safety Act passed by Congress has a section in it, a provision, where it says that any design, construction, or initial testing standards adopted by PHMSA cannot apply to existing pipelines, only new and replaced pipelines. So, operational regulations and things like that can apply to existing pipelines, but those, initial testing, design, and construction standards cannot. And what that means in practice is that PHMSA has been unable to make certain life-saving regulatory changes, including those recommended by the NTSB after tragedies like San Bruno, like requiring rupture mitigation valves in high-consequence areas that we know would save lives. So in practice, this permanently exempts about half of the nation's pipelines from and including those at the highest risk from meeting critical modern safety standards.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Karam. And as you mentioned, it's important to highlight something that you said. Half of pipelines in the U.S. are essentially blocked from having these additional safety standards for communities and workers on them and being updated to be safer. Ms. Miller, you represent an association of pipeline companies, and I see here in your testimony that it states that your members, quote, appreciate improved due process, unquote, for companies that violate the laws as a priority. I want to discuss the consequences for pipeline companies when they fail to follow the law and PHMSA's rules. Just over 5 years ago, an employee of Energy Transfer, a pipeline company and a member of your organization, was killed while conducting maintenance activities on a gas pipeline in Kansas. This employee was attempting to remove an object that had become stuck due to ice in a partly pressurized pipeline. Now, PHMSA's rules require operators to completely depressurize pipelines before working on them. But this worker was attempting to remove the object using a steel rod when the object became dislodged and, due to remaining pressure in the pipeline, struck him in the abdomen and killed him. Now Energy Transfer is in court, arguing that it should not be held to account for the fact that it did not follow PHMSA's rules. Mr. Chair, I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record a complaint brought by the Attorney General in the Northern District Court of Texas.
Without objection, so ordered.
This complaint states that, quote, PHMSA's investigation indicates that Energy Transfer failed to follow its manual of written procedures for conducting operations and maintenance activities at the Borcher station in connection with this fatal incident. Someone died. Now, one of the biggest companies in the industry, Energy Transfer, is in court arguing that PHMSA shouldn't be able to hold any company that violates its rules responsible. Ms. Miller, you mentioned due process for companies that violate laws in your testimony as a priority. In your opinion, if a pipeline company does not follow the rules and a worker is killed, should PHMSA be able to hold that company responsible?
Thank you for the question, Congresswoman. I would say that any specific questions about Energy Transfer's litigation, I would have to defer to them. But for our GPA midstream members, generally speaking, we do encourage that our members are able to rely on a strong enforcement protocol and that it is executed in a way that is transparent and complies with law, due process being part of that, to ensure that there are.
I apologize, I only have 15 seconds left. Should PHMSA be able to hold the companies responsible?
We do believe that PHMSA should be a strong enforcement agency and equitably apply its rules across the industry.
Okay, great. So they should be able to hold these companies responsible. And yet we are in an environment where the Trump administration and their enforcement actions against pipeline companies.
I'm sorry, the general lead's time has expired.
Sure. Thank you.
The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from New York's 14th District, 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Novak, I'm glad you are joining us today. And, this hearing is focused on several bills regarding energy efficiency, and this committee has seen several rollbacks of energy efficiency standards and proposals to that end. Are you familiar with how many Americans are employed by the energy efficiency sector nationally?
I am not.
It's about 2.3 million workers. About 2 out of every 5 energy jobs in the United States are related to energy efficiency. Can you guess what is the fastest growing category of energy efficiency work in the United States?
I'm not particularly good at guessing.
That's all right.
So, yes.
It's construction.
Okay.
So these are construction jobs. Energy efficiency jobs are construction jobs, installation, production, manufacturing, HVAC, building materials, all of it. Now, do you know how many jobs have been threatened or lost due to the Trump administration's closures of clean energy projects in the last 6 months or so, the first half of this year?
I'm not aware of any such analysis.
91,000. Trump administration and Department of Energy policies have cost Americans 91,000 jobs nationwide in rollbacks on efficiency. And, these large numbers are statistics. They're hard to, I think, people to understand when they show up on a white paper. But in Colorado's 8th district, Amprius Technologies canceled plans to construct a $190 million battery plant in Brighton, Colorado. In that same district, actually, another company, VSK Energy, canceled plans due to the Trump administration, canceled their plans to build solar panels, and they scratched a $250 million investment and up to 900 jobs in that same district. In Georgia 12, an EV plant was canceled due to the Trump administration and DOE's freezing of the EV charging program. Registered Georgia has a population of 157 people. They lost out on 166 jobs. They lost more jobs than they have people in that town because of the cancellation and war on renewable energy and clean energy here. In that same district, a copper foil manufacturing plant went bankrupt as a result of these rollbacks, and Augusta, Georgia lost out on 350 jobs. And the list goes on. In South Carolina, 250 jobs when a construction of an EV plant in Florence was halted due to DOE's freezing of funds. We could go on. In Michigan 10th, 167 jobs were lost after $50 million worth of investment. These are all freezes in renewable and clean energy construction and development projects. This is an industry that has been a source of jobs and growth. This administration, the Trump administration, is destroying the American economy, destroying American jobs. 91,000 jobs in this sector alone. I have one simple question. In these towns and areas, what is the DOE's plan to replace those jobs in those affected areas?
I'll say this is beyond the scope of what I'm prepared to testify to today. I'd be happy to take the question for the record in regard to the analysis that you cited here in regard to job loss.
So in your view, you're the general counsel for the Department of Energy, that's correct?
Acting.
Acting. And in all that you've seen, have you seen any effort to replace these jobs that are being canceled by the administration?
I have not. I'm not sure that would
have
come my
not.
way. But
So we're seeing a concerted effort
91,000 jobs already gone. Now, this is after the administration has also already released a revised report saying we have 1 million less jobs in this economy than was originally reported. We're actively killing plants and projects in rural places across this country. And I'm hearing today that there's no effort to replace them. And my time is up. I yield back.
And if you would, just in writing, answer the lady's question, the gentle lady's question. Thank you.
Yes, I can't answer the question because I haven't seen the analysis, but I'd be happy to take the question for the record.
The
organ is recognized.
I'm honored to yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from New York, Representative Ocasio-Cortez.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, Madam Ranking Member. Here we are today, Republicans who have voted consistently against the Violence Against Women Act, who have taken away the right of all women to choose and have control over their own body, who, as women are bleeding out in parking lots across the country, standing there, allowing us to die, now want to pretend today that they care about women. And why? To open up gender and, yes, genital examinations into little girls in this country in the so-called name of attacking trans girls. And to that, today, what we have to say are 2 words: not today. The majority right now says there's no place in this bill that says it opens up for genital examinations. Well, here's the thing. There's no enforcement mechanism in this bill. And when there is no enforcement mechanism, you open the door to every enforcement mechanism. Trans girls are girls. And for all the folks that are so concerned, thank you for your concern about women for the first time that I've seen. I don't know about y'all, I don't know who's been to gym class lately, but girls, even if you only believe in 2 genders, I've played co-ed sports all the time. But what this also opens the door for is for women to try to perform a very specific kind of femininity for the very kind of men who are drafting this bill, and to open up questioning of who is a woman because of how we look, how we present ourselves, and yes, what we choose to do with our bodies. I know who loves this bill. Yes, bigoted folks love this bill. Assaulters love this bill. But also, CEOs love this bill. Because Los Angeles is on fire right now. And this is the #1 priority this majority has. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentlewoman.
I thank the ranking member. Mr. Speaker, I want the American people to know, with eyes wide open, what is inside this bill. Because we stand here just 2 days after President Trump gave unconditional pardons to violent criminals who attacked our nation's capital on January 6th. And these are the people who want you to believe, who want us to believe that they're trying to, quote unquote, keep criminals off the streets. When they are opening the floodgates. I want the American people to know what is in this bill. Because in the guise and in the wake of tragedy, we are seeing a fundamental erosion of our civil rights. In this bill, if a person is so much as accused of a crime, if someone wants to point a finger and accuse someone of shoplifting, they will be rounded up and put into a private detention camp and sent out for deportation without a day in court, without a moment to assert their right and without a moment to assert the privilege of innocent until proven guilty. Without being found guilty of a crime, they will be rounded up. That is what is inside this bill, a fundamental suspension of a core American value. And that is why I rise to oppose it. If you're a dreamer, all someone has to do is point a finger and you will be rounded up. And we have seen moments like these happen before. In the Patriot Act, in the wake of the travesty of 9/11, a fundamental suspension of American civil liberties. That is what we are seeing here today. Mr. Speaker, you may wonder why so many of our friends across the aisle who care so deeply about the rule of law happen to be so desperate to pass this bill, after they are unleashing people who attacked police officers here on this Capitol into roaming our streets, who are publicly saying now they want to get a gun. Suddenly, these folks care about public safety? I don't think so. Look no further than the price tag of this bill, $83 billion. They know that it can't be paid for. They know that the capacity is not there. And you know what will be there? Private prison companies are going to get flooded with money, who give this money, no doubt. I want folks at home to look. Look at what members of Congress are invested in private prison companies who receive this kind of money, and look at the votes on this bill. It is atrocious that people are lining their pockets with private prison profits in the name of a horrific tragedy and the victim of a crime. It is shameful. It is absolutely shameful. And Mr. Speaker, I'll conclude with this. In a few months, there are members of Congress who voted for this bill who are going to pretend they didn't know about all the bad things that are going to happen because of it. So when a private prison camp opens in your town, when a dreamer...
Time has expired.
I yield the gentlelady an additional 30 seconds.
So when a private prison camp opens in your town, and they say, we didn't know this was going to happen, know that they did, and they voted for it. When a dreamer is disappeared from your classroom, when the President of the United States destroys what is left of the Constitution, as he's announced in this attack on birthright citizenship, they will all say, we didn't know this was coming. And I want the American people to know that they did. This vote represents it. And with that, I yield back. Thank you very much.
Gentlelady is recognized for 90 seconds.
Thank you so much, and I thank the ranking member for yielding his time. 13.7 million Americans. 13.7 million Americans are the number of people in this country whose health care are going to be stripped in this bill. Now, Republicans are going to try to tell you every single distraction in the book from that essential number. I want people at home to understand that Medicaid and the federal matching funds for Medicaid can make up 30 to 40% of some of the state budgets that we have going on back in your home. Republicans have put this bill together, rushed it together in a matter of hours on the back of a napkin, shaking it, walking out of the White House, and brought it right here to this floor. They are defunding Planned Parenthood. They are ending tons of Medicaid coverage for 13.7 million Americans, including Affordable Care Act coverage as well. And if you want to get an abortion and have a silver plan on a health care plan that you paid for, you will also be affected by this legislation as well. Also, allowing suppressors on guns to be deregulated to some of the largest amounts that we have seen since the 1930s. This is just a Christmas bill. This is just a Christmas tree.
I yield the gentlelady additional 30 seconds.
And so I want people to understand, for my Republican colleagues who are sure what is in and not in this bill, in this process that has been this rushed, when you wake up in the morning, you will realize that you voted to defund Planned Parenthood and to take away health care from 13.7 million Americans. And when this country wakes up in the morning, there will be consequences to pay for this. And I yield back.
Gentlewoman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, and I thank the chairman. You know, President Trump had issued some statements throughout this process saying and urging, insisting that this bill does not cut Medicaid. He's also said some things, you know, he says he doesn't think I'm too much of a smart person. And I'll tell you one thing. It doesn't take a smart person to know if you're being lied to. President Trump, you're either being lied to or you are lying to the American people. Because this bill represents, in the text of this bill, the largest and greatest loss of health care in American history. 17 million Americans will lose their health care on this bill, not undocumented people, not quote unquote the disgusting term illegal, but 17 million Americans will have their health care cut from this bill. On this point of tax on tips, as one of the only people in this body who has lived off of tips, I want to tell you a little bit about the scam of that tax, a little bit of the fine print there. The cap on that is $25,000. While you're jacking up taxes on people who make less than $50,000 across the United States, while taking away their SNAP, while taking away their Medicaid, while kicking them off of the ACA and their health care extensions. So if you're at home and you're living off tips, you do the math. Is that worth it to you? Losing all your health care, not able to feed your babies, not being able to put a diaper on their bottom in exchange for what? This bill is a deal with the devil. It explodes our national debt. It militarizes our entire economy, and it strips away health care and basic dignity of the American people. For what? To give Elon Musk a tax break and billionaires the greedy taking of our nation. We cannot stand for it, and we will not support it. You should be ashamed.